to Teach Me Bees. I'm your host, Dave Westcott. I've got with me this morning co-host Scott the Beekeeper,
Hello, hello, hello.
also known as the Misfit.
That's what my tattoo says.
He is the Misfit.
That's right.
Misfit Scott. What's cracking on your mackin'?
You know, I think I could go a lot of directions with that, but we're just gonna say it's a solid day so far. We are having
What's
an okay
crack-a-lackin'?
day. Crack-a-lackin'.
What's cracking up in the hood?
The hood.
We're not in the hood.
We're not really. No,
We're not in the hood.
not so much. We are in the great state of Washington though,
Yep.
and it is becoming beautiful half the time.
Dude, I was so
Half the
worried
time.
about the bees this morning.
It's kind of cold this morning, out of nowhere.
It was
Like,
on the
40.
bee farm. It was 26 degrees this morning.
wow, that's cold.
I'll tell you what, because I'm training for a marathon. So my workout starts at 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's disgusting.
You're up at 5, aren't you?
I am, but I'm not running at 5.
Okay.
There is a difference. I'm getting a cup of coffee.
I wasn't running either. I was doing 40 laps in the pool. I start with 40 laps in the pool.
Okay.
But here's the deal. I was up early because we have a new dog. And that new dog,
Needs to go to the bathroom, huh?
well, it didn't exactly wait.
Oh, that's not awesome.
That's not awesome. So I happened to be outside very early in the morning, and I was looking at the barn, and the shingles on the barn were bright white.
Wow.
And I was like, what the heck? And the entire barn was covered in frost.
To be clear, it is a May. It's May.
The entire barn was covered in frost, and I was like, oh no. And so then I checked the temps,
Yeah.
and it's below freezing.
That's crazy.
And so I'm like thinking about the bees, I start thinking about the bees, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on with the bees? Are the bees, were they out flying yesterday? They were out pollinating, and now all of a sudden they're going to get cold. And what happens to all of the plants? Because everything that's beginning to bloom, is that going to shock it?
Yeah.
These late cold snaps that can play havoc on plants and blooming and all of that.
Yep.
So I'm like thinking to myself, okay, this is not good. As a beekeeper, as a professional beekeeping company, a freeze in May
Even briefly, not great.
is not good. I mean, it's cold. It was so cold. And then so I went, swam my laps, and then I went out to do my road work, if you will. And I see Paul's pulling into the office, and he's like, it's too cold. What are you doing out here? It's so cold. And I was like, yeah, it is cold. So, that's one of the things as beekeeper you got to really pay attention to. You got to really watch out for is the weather, right? Like
Weather's huge.
this thing is a killer.
Like earlier this week, the days were, and if you're not in Western Washington with us, you may not have experienced this. Maybe you have in your area. I don't know. But it'd be about 50 degrees, and then it's beautiful. It's sunny. You start to see your bees out. You're like, oh, that's great. And then 7 minutes later, it's cloudy and dumping. And you're like, oh, glad I didn't open up the bees to look at anything.
One of the number one killers for those who might not know in the beehive is moisture.
Yeah.
Moisture,
Especially where we're at.
Moisture is a killer in the beehive. So interesting. I'm in Miami last week, and I'm coming back. I'm flying Delta Miami, and I've got a layover in Utah, connection flight, and I'm in the airport. And you know how they've got those little convenience stores in the airport?
Mm-hmm. Super marked up.
Yeah, super marked up or whatever. But it's whatever, So I'm in, and I'm going through the stores, and I went to a couple of them because I was trying to find Madeline a little gift or something. And what I noticed was each one of the gift stores had a surplus of honey. Like they were actually selling honey. They were selling honeycomb. They were selling bee necklaces. They were selling bee stuffed animals. They were selling bee books. It seemed that every single one of the stores that I went into, and I didn't go into every single one in the airport, but the stores that I went into in the airport
They had bee merch.
had a huge focus on beehives
Yeah.
and bees and honey. And I'm just wondering, is Utah known as a big bee capital?
I'm not sure. It doesn't ring a bell as one of the more predominant bee states. I know the Dakotas definitely. Florida's a big one.
I mean, it really seems like
But I have a feeling
there's a big presence of bees.
and we can look this up and get some more information here. But I have a feeling
Is Utah?
some of that is like for the kids in the airport. You get the bee stuffed animal or a bee book to like keep them busy on the flight. But then honey, like the idea of getting honey from another location is kind of cool.
Okay, so listen.
What'd you find out?
Here's the deal. I'm on Dr. Google right now, and I'll tell you that what I've learned about traveling is that because I travel all the time.
Yep, you're a traveler.
This summer, I will travel 50 days for work. And I will tell you that, by the time my daughter was 1 year old, she'd been to 38 states.
That's kind of crazy.
So we do a lot of traveling for work. I'm not like
Yeah.
traveling.
You're not just having
I'm
fun
not just
everywhere.
living the life, right? I'm working hard. But here's what I found. Every time you go to an airport, the airport theme, what is sold in these stores is typically the most popular tourist attractions and parts of that city. Like if you go to Boston, you're going to have the little candy lobsters. You're going to have lobster stuffed animals. You're going to have a lot.
lobster stuff.
Like every airport really is focused on what
that local.
that state is
factor.
known for.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the big thing. And so knowing that, I was thinking, what is this bees with Utah? And I'm just going to read a little bit to you here about what we know about Utah. Utah is known as the Beehive State, and representations of beehives are found all over different Utah signs, monuments, and buildings.
Oh, that's cool.
Beehive sculptures are the Utah state capital. Utah is the leading producer of honey, with thousands of pounds produced in the state every single year. Few people know the real reason Utah is called the Beehive State. And it's due to its honey production. Again, it's the leading producer of honey.
It's very interesting.
In fact, the honeybee is even the state's official insect. However, the real reason Utah is called the Beehive State is a little more complicated. The beehive is a symbol used by several religions and has particular roots in the state's dominant religion, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. After pioneers entered the Salt Lake City Valley in the 1840s, Brigham Young, president of the church at the time, wanted to name the new territory Desert. This word means honeybee in the Book of Mormon and a scripture of the Church of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Bees also symbolize hard work, industry, and community. They must work together to thrive, and that's exactly what the pioneers had to do when entering the Salt Lake Valley in the 1800s. However, when Utah became an official state in 1896, Congress favored the name Utah after the Ute tribe. Despite being called Utah, the beehive continued to play an important part of the state and was placed on the state flag. It is the official emblem of the state. In 1959, the beehive became the official symbol of Utah. In fact, when visiting the Utah State Capitol building, you'll see two large beehive sculptures located near the grand staircase on the south side of the building. Now, the next time you see this important symbol, you remember our Utah history and remember the importance of the industry, community, and hard work, the qualities that make our great state flourish. Pictured above is the Beehive in Salt Lake City. This is one of the official residents of Brigham Young. Wow.
There's some good bee history for you right there.
Wow.
I didn't know there was such
That's
roots
crazy,
in Utah.
man. That's great. I had no idea. Here's what surprises me. This is it. Hive loss is such a big deal.
Yeah.
Hive loss is one of those things like we talk about all the time, and we talk about wintering the bees and that, you know, they don't survive well in the winters, right? And it seems to me that like some of these cold states are like do massive amounts of bee work.
Yeah.
It would seem to me that it would be much easier to have bee farms in Washington and Oregon versus Utah. Utah gets 80 inches of snow, man. You know what I mean? Minnesota, another great area for bees. Mm-hmm. Right?
The Dakotas.
You know, you go to the Mall of America in Minnesota, I think there's 3 or 4 honey stores in the Mall of America. You know, the Dakotas, freezing, brutal winters, 50, 60, 70 inches of snow. What's your thought on that? That is just so, I'm just wondering why.
Yeah.
It seems foreign to me.
Yeah. Two thoughts.
All right. I'm ready for them.
One, and I'll preface, if you're in one of those states listening, we'd love your feedback. Would love to hear from you.
Yeah, we would.
But one is the moisture. Like moisture in Washington and Oregon is far more significant than Utah or some other places. It's more of a dry winter. Like they'll get snow, but they're not getting a lot of the humidity and the rain. Like for us this last winter, it actually didn't get super cold. There was a couple weeks that were really cold, and one snowstorm that was really, really cold. But a lot of it was moisture. It was a lot of rain, and then a lot of, in the 30s to 40s. And so it would like kind of get cold, kind of not, and it just really couldn't make up its mind. Where I feel like in Utah, the Dakotas, it's going to be more consistently, it's a dry cold, right? Like it's just not as much moisture. The second thought is I know that there are a lot of beekeepers who will move their hives into California for the winter because almonds are coming up right out of like kind of as winter transitions into spring. That's the almond season. So I know that there are some who
You think they're
who
moving
move
them
ahead
from
of time.
Utah?
Some. I mean, I know our interview with the honey company a little while back. They had their hives and they overwintered them there in Utah. So it probably just
I'd love to
depends
get someone on the show
what you're
from
doing.
Utah.
We could get them back and ask them.
if you're out there and you're in Utah and you want to be on our podcast show, we would love
us
to
up.
chat with you. What crops grow in Utah? That's a great question. So I think that's a good answer. We're gonna see
We're gonna have to
dry
expand
onions,
on the Utah.
pumpkins, sweet corn, alfalfa, beef cattle, alfalfa, hay, beef cattle, dairy cows, sheep, barley, various fruits. All right, we're not pollinating cows, but
That is true.
that is true.
That's not how that works.
Although there is a wasp called the cow killer.
I have heard of this. Yeah,
I saw one.
wasps in general are just kind of sucky. We don't
All
like
right,
them.
so
But so
You're
hope
on
you
your-
learned something about Utah.
yeah, Utah's interesting.
Fascinating.
So you're on your beehive journey as a beekeeper,
We are on a journey. Yeah,
and so this is your first year in beekeeping,
this is the first year, especially on this level. Yep.
and so you've been taking some classes,
Yep.
and
Yep.
you've been getting involved in the bee community,
Yep.
and so have you completed the so what was the first class that you completed?
I took a beginning beekeepers class. I took a follow-up apprentice class. I actually took 2 apprentice classes at 2 different places. I've read some books along the way with that.
Have you passed your apprentice test yet?
For one of them I did. The other, I'm actually a little behind. It's not super time sensitive.
Yeah.
I did all the work. I just have to like enter
Take the
in
test.
and like just officially.
So
do that.
I
But
mean, that's
the bee season gets busy.
that's some truth about like where we're at in our bee journey, and we work with your father-in-law,
Yep. He comes and helps out some.
who's a beekeeper of what 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, something around there.
So we've got a good bee mentor,
Yeah.
that has some experience. He was telling me yesterday he got stung twice.
We went out to deliver some hives. It's funny. We're going to expand on some of this in our follow-up episode. But this story, we went and dropped off some hives at a farm, and we were installing nuke packages. And one got into his veil somehow.
He had a little part of it wasn't zipped up all the way right here.
Something like that, which always check that before you get into your hives. Always just cinch it up and check it. And if a bee gets into your veil, into your head, what's going on up top, you have to kill it. Because what he did was it stung him, and he stepped away.
Yeah, he did.
Step away.
He went out into the woods.
Yep, he stepped away, 50 yards or whatever, and then
he took his hat off.
He decided, I'm going to take it off so this bee gets out of here, and it will be good. And at that moment, 2 other bees followed up with a bang bang sting on him. They were like homing missiles, like looking for the opportunity.
And one got him in the ear.
Yep. And then I think one in the back of the head. And so he got lit up.
Double tap.
Yep. And so he said, you know what? I just shouldn't have taken it off. What's the worst the one bee was going to do? It had already stung me. Just a little piece of advice. Don't take your veil off.
So,
especially after just installing nukes, at that point, bees are very active.
We are on this journey. This is year 2 with hives. Last year was our first year with hives. This is our second year with hives.
Yep. We're really pursuing growth here.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're having a good time. So I just guess we have a lot of really experienced beekeepers that come on the show that tell their story. We obviously try to learn as much as we can, as fast as we can. What's the number one thing that you've learned being a beekeeper today? Like, what's number one just stuck out in your mind?
Man, there are several things I've learned. I don't know if I can narrow it down to one, but some of the things that stand out as the most important things: the seasonal flow of beekeeping, and that it is a very seasonal industry. Kind of at least for us, maybe in another place, the season is longer or shorter, but it's really the April to August window that is a pretty big season. And then within that, there's peaks and valleys of productivity. So that, and then, from there, after that, you go into overwintering, and that's its whole thing. And then you come back out into spring. But so just the flow of the season, the importance of varroa and other diseases or pests that can disrupt your hive, that can cause damage, and just the awareness of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's when you think of bees, you often think of honey and the association with honey, which is really good. But I've learned a lot about the extracting process and the difference between raw and processed or pasteurized honey, which we talked about in an episode. And so some of those differences and how they really matter. And the queens are such a big deal. Like when you're inspecting your hive, it's so important to be careful not to accidentally roll your queen when you're pulling out your frames. So you try to get a little bit of separation with the end frame, pull that one out, and then you have a lot of room to work with.
Yeah.
And you do your inspections, you hold up to the sunlight to see if you see the eggs. And so if you can't see your queen, if you see eggs, that means she's been laying the last 3 days. Like, you don't have to always find the queen and identify her. So those are just some of the big things that I've learned in the past year.
That's interesting. Why did you what inspired you to become a beekeeper?
What inspired me?
Maybe nothing inspired you. Maybe it was just like, oh crap, I need to do something. Bees are there.
There was a piece of it that was just seeking a new opportunity, I left some previous jobs and was just looking for something different. I worked a lot with students, with people, and it's nice. Let me tell you, my previous job, I had to deal with kids where I'd have to restrain and break up fights and take being hit and cussed out and all these things. And I would take working with the bees and getting stung every single day over that.
Really?
I would. Does the sting hurt? Yeah, I got stung in the neck like 2 weeks ago. That wasn't my favorite, but goes away. It's okay. It's not a big deal. And bee venom can be healthy for you. So
Yeah, bee venom is good. I drink it every morning.
you know. So yeah, for me, was interested in bees. I wouldn't say I knew a ton, but I was definitely interested in the opportunity of Honey for Hope and the mission of Honey for Hope as a company that wants to give back to change the world.
Yeah.
That's something that I value, and just who I am and my faith and my walk. Like I care about people's lives and bettering their lives. And, in some ways we're going to do that with this company in my personal life. I'll do that in other ways,
Right.
but
So
always
it was
caring for
mission?
the world.
It was mission?
Mission matters to me.
Mission
Yeah.
mattered when you were kind of thinking about it. You had an interest in bees,
Yeah.
and you were tired of being in education or whatever, where it
Yeah.
was
Tired of some of the baggage.
Getting
Anyone
beat up.
who can last in the school district, in the education, mad respect to you, because it is hard. And not every job is exactly what I was doing, but I know that every job has its challenges and it is hard.
And every
in the
school
public
is
school
different.
system. Every school's different. Every state's a little different. Every district's a little different. But regardless,
Yeah.
I know lots of people who are in that field, teachers and whatnot, and it's hard. Very
So
hard.
you got into bees, and before we decided that we were working together, before we put that together, you actually did some research on your own.
Yeah.
You read some books.
Started reading books, kind of formulating what would it look like to actually make this a business, and what are the things we could do with that. So I was looking into pollination things and trying to figure that out, and wouldn't say I have like it all fully grasped yet. Like there's still a lot to be learned, and we're learning as we go.
We're still young. We're still young. I mean, we're just
young personally and as a company.
That's right. Because I'm young because I'm going to live to 120. And I'm not talking drooling in a wheelchair at 120. I'm going to be dancing,
Olympic
laughing,
athlete.
walking, pollinating at 120.
It's an ambitious goal, but pursue it.
No, 120. Why can't I live to 120?
I don't know.
I've got 80 more years left. And you got to love what you do. And I think
Do you still want to be working at 120?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know what? I don't want to retire. I don't want to live a life of retirement. Like, you know what I've noticed about retirement? Like, now that I'm middle-aged, I can officially say that I'm middle-aged. Now that I'm going to live to 120, I'm a baby.
Yeah,
but
you still got some time.
listen, here's what I know about being middle-aged. Here's what I know and understand is that I've been able to watch a lot of my peers who are 10, 15, 20 years older than me, and I've been able to watch what happens in their life. And what I've noticed is that when you hit 55, 60, that age, you still need to work. A lot of people still need to go to work, but you've already lived a life. Like, you've put some money away. You probably have a house. You've got a pretty stable career. It's not like when you're in your early 20s and you're working at the car wash and you absolutely hate every minute of your day. Or,
That's not fun.
You're working at the local burrito stand because it's the first job out of your career and every minute of it sucks, right? So, you've found something that you like. And so when you go to work, it's not like you're going to work because you have to have this wage you need the money, but you need to pay your bills and that sort of thing. But you're doing it because it gives you purpose, because it gives you love. And a big reflection for me is do something that you love and do something where the mission is more important. And sometimes, business is really hard, right? So like as an entrepreneur, as someone who has this bee business, like I can get so nervous about, oh my gosh, did we get that pollination contract? Did our bees get over there? Oh my goodness, are we going to get the check? Where are we going to land our hives? But I need to always stay focused on, one, I trust God first. So that's my mission. And then two, what's the most important thing to me? And one of the things that I like to ask people is I say, because people say, oh man, I know so much about you. I know you, Dave, whatever, that I like to say, hey, if you know me, then tell me about me. What do you think the most important thing to me in my life is? And they'll say, sometimes people will say, oh, making money. And then sometimes people will say, oh, your family. And I say, those are good answers, but that means you don't really know me. Because if you know me, I'm imperfect. I might cuss a little too much from time to time. I might, I don't know. That's my only vice in this world. But at the end of the day, we all got to have one, But at the end of the day, like, I love God. I love the Lord. I love doing what I'm doing. But you know what my mission is? My mission is change the world.
Yeah.
That's what I really care about. Like, I'm going to die. And when I die at 120-ish, because I want to get to 120 while I'm still dancing, laughing, pollinating, and having a good time. Then here's the deal. So maybe like 122, 123, I'll kick it.
Yeah, who knows?
There's something in there.
But no, I have no idea.
So, but minimum, I'm going to live to 120.
Okay.
That's my thing. And so, that means that like when I die, this building that we're in, I don't get to take it with me.
No.
This camera that we're shooting this show on, I don't get to take it with me. And the most important thing is if you and I were friends and you didn't know God, and then I was friends and I was like, oh man, Scott, you're my best friend. I love hanging out with you, man. You're so awesome. And all that time went by and then you died. And then I died. And let's say I went to heaven and you went to hell. We got totally religious on the bee show. That's okay. Remember, it's Teach Me Bees and other cool stuff. Don't forget. So, and if we could talk to one another, you might say to me, Dave, if we were really friends, why didn't you share God with me?
Yeah.
And I would say, I was afraid to, or I was nervous, or I didn't know how you would take it, And so I think like the number one most important thing to me with Honey for Hope, with bees, is change the world. And we get to do that through pollinating. We get to do that through being good to the environment. We get to do that with being good stewards of the land. We get to do that
honey sales
by doing these things. And then we get to take the profit that we make from the honey and the bees and all that, and we get to give it to charity. And that's my number one reason. So if you know me, then you'll know that the number one most important thing to me is change the world. And that's through supporting and giving to Christian and noble causes that are helping to change the world and impact us globally. And that's the mission for Honey for Hope.
Yeah.
That's the number one most important thing to me. Yes, I want to make money. Yes, I want to be successful. Yes, I don't want my bees to die. Yes, I don't want them to get varroa mites. But at the end of the day, I want to change the world. So we got to bring this in for a landing. We're at time here. But what I'll say is as we close the show is if you're looking to be a part of an organization, if you buy honey, if you like honey, if you're invested in honey, listen, reach out to Honey for Hope, buy from us because we're about changing the world. So if you want to change the world, change it with us. Any final thoughts?
No, love what you said. Not every company has a mission, or if their mission is profitability, that's just the world that we live in. And our mission, although we care about that, we also care about people and how can we better their life and change their life. And so that's the whole purpose So join us in our mission. Join us as we expand our company, as we sell our honey. As you maybe you're out there listening and you want to do some kind of pollination service, and we would love to work with you in that. Or you want to buy from us, or you want to just learn some of the beekeeping things that we've learned, and we're willing to pass those things along. And as we learn, we hope you learn. And this podcast is a part of that. And so, yeah, stay connected to what we're doing and follow along and support our work so we can support other work. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Great tips. Great show. I'm Dave Westcott. This is Scott the Beekeeper. Every Thursday, we are here.
That's right.
Talking about Teach Me Bees and other cool stuff. Follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, anywhere we're at social. We're hanging out. If you like it, give it a like, give it a share, drop your comments in the comment box. We love hanging out. Have a great day.